So, welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and I have some more RPG horror stories for us to cover. I've been messing around with Unity and Blender. That's actually how I made Morrow. Blender being a model creation program and Unity being a game engine. Anyway, I've been working on learning animation by hand in Unity, and I made a bit of an origin story for Morrow. Now, the animation itself is not smooth. It's pretty rough. It's my first ever attempt without any animation experience whatsoever. The animation should go later when the video goes live, but if anything, I'll pin the video down in the comments and I'll leave it in the description below. Anyway, let's get over to the stories for today. Player makes some statements that really left me scratching my head. So a player that made an insufferable undead character with almost zero background and motivations to go on an adventure, to join any kind of party, and most importantly, to engage in any kind of fight. Since I didn't want to give his character any of these, I told him some motivations, based on what little background he made up. That would have been enough to justify his character going on an adventure, join the party, and to engage in combat. It's important to know that he is the type of player that justifies everything he does with, "That's what my character would do." Oh god, it's gotta be one of these. Idiot's tip about making a character that actually wants to get involved in the story: make their involvement in the story and join the party be the "That's what my character would do." Not the "I don't want to do anything in a party because I'm a lone wolf and stuff and I want everybody else to cater around my character's needs because that's what my character would do," because it doesn't do anything interesting for you. Make a character that wants to join an adventure. Make a character that wants to be in a party, not a character that's like, "I don't know what I want to do. That's what my character would do." Nothing, because he doesn't know what he want to do. Wow, what a cool character. He either forgot these or didn't even listen to me in the first place, because we had a conversation a couple of days ago that went something like this. "So your character doesn't want to be a member of the party?" "Correct." "So you don't want your character to be part of this game anymore?" "No, I want to keep playing him." "So are you willing to make the effort to take the motivations that I gave you or invent some your own, use them to be a member of the party?" "No, because that's not what my character would do." "So what do you suggest?" "They're the ones that have to make the effort and possibly act out of character to take me in their party." Like, bruh, I'm still trying to understand the thought process behind all of this. At what point do you think, well, I'm the one actively making the effort to not be in their party because that's what my character, to which I gave zero motivation to, would do, so they have to make the effort and act out of character to take me in and make that make sense? Needless to say that he is already rolling up a new character that has actual background and motivations. Why is your character a companion NPC that needs to pass a dialogue check to get him on your side? What are we playing, Mass Effect? Are you reporting back to Normandy? Because that would be the only thing that would make sense, that it was a D&D campaign or a TTRPG campaign in the Mass Effect universe, and your character is a companion NPC that needs to get either Paragon or Renegade social checks in order to get you recruited. You could play anything in the world in TTRPG, and you chose to play in a companion NPC. Why would you do that to yourself? Well, anyway, I guess the lesson we can learn here is, guys, make a character that wants to go on an adventure, not somebody that needs to be a speech check. Why would the players care? They'll just be like, okay, he doesn't want to come along with us, screw him, we'll find somebody else. I don't understand this mentality, dude. I don't understand. That guy can't hear you because he's not listening. I was running a Savage Rifts game for my roommates that eventually went online and only ever included people we knew in real life. There's only two important people in the story though. That guy, a friend I've known for nearly 10 years who in hindsight has been abusing me. He's a victim blamed me for being sexually assaulted, bullied me for near everything about me, and habitually sexually harassed me while I was under the influence, going so far as to threaten to SA me and dry hump me because he thinks it's funny. Have you called police on this person before? Because you really should. Other GM, a player who seems to be into being a devil's advocate and seems to try and be impartial most times. He also runs an M&M game. The first red flag experience from that guy in character creation was asking for a homebrew character inspired from Titanfall, and explained that while he could pilot a mech, there's no way an orbital drop works in the setting. So after this was explained, he continued arguing and trying to get me to yield on a point I had made because he wanted to reenact an orbital drop. Instead of making a character who runs something else, he completely dropped the idea and decided to make a techno-wizard from World War II Wolfensteinish dimension. The biggest issue he had as a player is main character syndrome. He habitually talks over the rest of the group and always has to get the last word in no matter what. To make matters worse, his character was a human supremacist that would absolutely never shut up. Every time they met a non-human NPC, he would be incredibly racist and start fights that he always lost. It got to the point that everyone was getting burnt out of the game because he would hijack the plot, and we could never keep a cohesive story because of his shenanigans. We were also voicing our problems to him, but he always chalked it up to, "That's just my character. That's just my character. Well, here's a boot in your ass. Kick the guy. He sounds insufferable. World War II techno wizard, whatever, fine. If he's being disruptive in a game, you remove his ass." It's one thing a character being arrogant, but I feel like this is a player being arrogant and just being a jerk to everyone. Good players that play arrogant characters, they'll play the arrogant characters to be arrogant, but not to overlap others, because, hey, guess what? They're not actually arrogant assholes in life. They're just playing a character for the sake of playing a character, but they will know when to stop because they're respectful players. This finally boiled over with the worst outburst he had over the length of our game. One day after finishing an incredibly hard job, the group company decided to have a party and relax. That guy's character decided this was a horrible waste of money and the company's time. So as a joke, he goes to a gang of juicers, super soldiers, and hires them to assault the party and crew with lethal weapons. Once these guys show up while the party is drunk, unarmed, and having a good time, they manage to dispatch all of them and catch that guy in the process. One party member assaults him and knocks him into a coma. And then an assassin I had planted as a plot device saw this as a perfect opportunity to finish the job. So this was that guy's first character death. Should have been first, last, and removed from the game, but we'll see how this story goes. So he makes a new character that can teleport interdimensionally and has very good defenses outside being resistant to damage itself. After the character was in play, he lets it slip. He specifically built his character so he wouldn't have to deal with the consequences of his actions. Wow, what a fun build. Also, DM, what are you doing allowing your player to do that? You have full control in what's going on in your game. You have full control, and you can say, yeah, you could do that, it's completely fine. Hey, can you edit that? And say, no, don't do that. Bad that guy. You have full control to decide what your players can do, what your players cannot do. So why are you giving the problem player that clearly created a problem to make another character that has a way to get away from his quote-unquote problems when you don't have to do that? You don't have to please everybody. If you decide that some character should not have a specific thing, they shouldn't have a specific thing, especially if it's justified to, he's trying to get this thing so he can just avoid the consequences of his actions. He wouldn't have to deal with the consequences of his actions, by the way, if he wasn't such a jerk. But you know what? He wants to, because he is a jerk. He's a problem player. You should have removed him early on and not let him have this interdimensional teleportation nonsense, or put a huge debuff with it. Or maybe you have. We'll see how the story goes. In play, he had a habit of doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and caused issues for the group in a completely new way. He'd steal from the group, break into women's showers, and go out of his way to go insanely Looney Tunes bits that were funny on occasion, but still made the game run a lot slower and happened far too often, sometimes to the point there was more time spent on his comedy act than in the game. We brought it up again, and he constantly deflected and claimed it was just his character again. It also expressed that from now on, I'd be cracking down very hard on joke characters to avoid this problem again. He then said he'd stop playing at that point, and that he didn't care about how much the rest of the group enjoyed the game. Good. He should stop playing. You should have removed him. This was your out. He was going to be out. You didn't have to deal with him. There's one thing to have a character that's like a little bit crazy, a little bit loony, but I mean, if he's a disruption to the rest of the game, he's a disruption to the rest of the game. If he takes away from his comedy act the rest of the session, then say no. Don't allow that. Do not allow that. You're the DM. You choose the rules. You choose what happens in your games. Sorry if I'm a little amped up. The whole concept of, that's what my character would do. How about you make a character that's not an asshole and that's actually pleasant to be around? If you're gonna set up a jerk character, at least talk to the DM ahead of time and, I don't know, figure out a way where this can work out so that you may have a character development later on. I don't. That's the only explanation why somebody want to start as a jerk. They're rough around the edges, but then they get comfy with the party and then they change. They learn about friendship. I don't know. Or whatever motivation, friendship, loyalty, whatever you want. I DM'd other GM, expressing concern about what was said, and genuinely considered kicking him out. Other GM claimed that he's just joking around and doesn't mean what he said. At this point, I believe that's a lie told to do damage control, and I should have known because that guy had also said before he wishes the quiet players would just quit the game. The final outburst of the game started when the group was set to cross the ocean and supercarrier with VTOLs. That guy said he's extremely excited because he wants to do a Top Gun bit, and I'm just like, you don't have the piloting skills to fly a VTOL, let alone to be funny doing it. After explaining all the issues with it, he uses the meta-knowledge from the discussion to try his best to lie to all the staff and get permission to fly. He, by some miracle, passes the rolls and almost kills himself and 2 other people, and nearly thrashes one of the most expensive pieces of equipment on the market. So the security detained him. After a struggle, he put him in the brig. His solution: teleport a high explosive grenade into his anus and arm it. While there was more deliberation and whatnot, this moment killed the game for me. I no longer had any motivation to keep running, and I genuinely resented the approaching dates it had. As a DM, if your player is doing something that is completely bonkers and something you will not allow them to do, you can simply just say, no. Hey DM, I want to hijack a plane. No. Hey DM, I want to try to convince the staff to get me on a plane. No. It might sound like I'm saying take away the player's agency, but I'm not saying that. No. I think the rest of the players are probably fine because they're not being mentioned at all. If a problem player in your game is doing something that's going to cause the whole campaign to just completely derail and ruin everyone's fun, you have the right to take away the problem player's agency and tell him to stop, and make it so his character can't do anything. You as a DM are allowed to say what your players can or cannot do, and give them agency according to that. If you don't want your problem player to fly VTOL, don't let your problem player fly VTOL, no matter what they do. I'm not saying take away their agency because the agency of other players is not being taken away, sure, but if you don't want any players to fly VTOL, don't let them. Just don't let them. So I started another game alongside it. I was aiming to wrap up the first one ASAP. Specifically, I chose a system that well grounded in reality and horror based to make sure I have good control of the game as well. Once the first session rolls around, bad guy characters are introduced. In concept, it was an annoying influencer Wiccan with Big Daddy's money. Figured it would be fine as long as the eccentrics aren't horrible, and I was vocal about it. You should have not let the player join, for real. If he is creating so much problems, why are you letting him join your other games? Just tell him no. I don't want you in my games. I don't like you having my games. Last game, you keep ruining with your stupid jokes and your stupid characters' actions and just derails everything and ruins all the fun. I get it. There's some friend politics going on and stuff that could be happening and everything, completely understand. But at some point you gotta put your foot down. You can't let every single known jerk into your game. This wasn't the case though. She went out of her way to harass other player characters, and when she didn't get her way, she decided to do a ritual curse on him with some absolutely hysterical things going on during. I figured this is the perfect time to set the tone of the rest of the game and have her accidentally summon a demon. She asked the demon to make the other player characters worship her like everyone else, and his price is a pound of human flesh. So she finds her most mentally ill follower and convinces them to unalive themselves. Then, after the details complete, she asked the demon to have sex with her. This demon was based on a hellhound, but was the size of a grizzly bear, so her fun ended up not being so fun. Classic seduce the dragon moment, except it's a horror game. There was no narration, just take X damage. Take X damage. I mean, I guess that's the most tame way to say, it's a fade to black with damage on the side. Well, at least it didn't give the satisfaction over narration because, ew, gross, what the hell. After causing a death and almost getting the other player character killed, at the end of the session, the player realized just how badly he messed up and pulls this out of his ass. When you're treating her wounds, you see she's wearing a rosary and proceeds to explain she's actually religious and does the Wiccan stuff for exposure. This was never discussed. I never received a single sentence of backstory. Not to mention she just made a pact with a demon and manipulated someone who looks up to her into unaliving themselves. So after the session ends, I explained that the tone of the story is very important to me. And I also finally go on a long-winded rant about that guy's behavior and how it made me want to end our original game. Instead of taking the criticism or responding while the rest of the group agrees with me, that guy drops from the server and every other server that any of our friends are in. He then refuses to speak to me for months and still hasn't talked to me about it since. We also live together, so this man hid in his room for me for months. Oh, it's your roommate. Oh. Maybe it's good riddance. Let him hide. Let him hide. Who cares? Who cares what he wants? He's clearly somebody there that's there because they have fun or ruining other people's fun or having a main character syndrome or that's what my character would do stuff. They clearly are not fun to play with at the table, whether it be IRL or virtual. Now to top things off, other GM was running an M&M game. That guy and myself were in. That guy dropped from the game and we didn't play again until he came back. But when he did, something came out of nowhere. At the end of a session, I DM'd the other GM with some issues and I was having with the game, explaining that I feel like the repetitive jokes were getting boring and allowing the group to act like complete idiots and still succeed with no problem was ruining immersion for me. The next day, I get a message from one of the other group members asking me to leave because of some of the players' feelings uncomfortable around RPing with new people. For context, we'd been in a group for months and had spent several hours with each member helping them through character creation because other GM was new to M&M. This didn't ring right to me, so I asked if it was because of that guy. The player clarified that he didn't even know what happened, and I explained what happened and he'd known what kind of player that guy was. A day later, I've been removed from every server our friend group was in. and other GM unfriended me and refuses to accept a request back. So I've now come to the conclusion I was lied to, so they'd save face. They just picked the person that had no longer over me because he couldn't cope with me being around. There's always two sides to every story, so maybe there's a little bit more that's being left out or some sort of context is being left out, but listen, if it is as you say it is, you got a free out. So you don't have to deal with problem player, you don't have to deal with players that prefer the problem player, you're free. You're free to find new pastors, you're free to find better new groups out there that will actually want to have you around. Although it sucks being removed or kicked out, if they choose the problem player over you, I think this is the best outcome you could possibly get. You have a way out. Take the way out and run free. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.